So I'm Vikram, Associate Vice President Programs, part of PMA Chennai chapter, associated with PMA Chennai chapter for the last 2 years plus a decade. I'm also working as a senior manager in Capgemini with 20 plus years of experience in product development based program handling, starting from defense and aerospace, automobile, and right now into telecom. I'm also into training and development. I started my own training and consultancy firm. I'm the co-founder of Aarti Shikshati Training and Consultancy, focusing on lifelong learning platform creations for students, members, as well as for all the folks that they're interested in. Predominantly focusing on product development, soft skills, and project management related trainings. And I'm also associated as part of the Toastmasters for the last 3 years. I am currently the Division D Director in District 1 Toastmasters International. All these platforms gave me a lot of opportunity to learn, network, and learn from others as well. As somebody was very clearly saying, unlearn, relearn, and see whatever is best possible to share with people. The more you share with people, I always prefer sharing with people because the more you share, you will be able to gain a lot. So with that said, let us start the session today. Today our speaker is a person well known to me personally because I worked with him for the last 3 years, the moment I started my Toastmasters journey. To give him a brief introduction about this special person, Dr. Sundararaman Chindamani comes with 35 years of experience from industries like petroleum refinery, engineering software, and ITS companies. He's a business storyteller. I have seen him telling stories in many forums, in many angles. He's a business storytelling coach and a keynote speaker on business storytelling. Works closely with organizations and individuals in nurturing the art of business storytelling to achieve their goals in corporate life. A subject matter expert in oil and gas development industry and participates in industry forums, seminars, and conferences by presenting papers. A member of Toastmasters International for the 14 years, and he holds dual distinguished Toastmaster credential, which is the highest credential that every Toastmaster will aim for. A member and immediate past president of Chennai chapter of Professional Speakers Association of India. Panel speaker and panel moderator for many panel discussions. And adjunct faculty for petroleum universities, business schools, and incubation centers. Has a rich experience as a project manager for several projects related to operator training simulator projects and IT projects for the energy sector and industry. Today, he is with us to enlighten us on business storytelling for project managers. With a warm round of applause, I'd like to hand over the podium to Dr. Sundararaman. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Vikram, for that wonderful introduction. I'm extremely delighted and happy to be here in the forum of PMI Chennai chapter, where almost hundreds of project managers are here, and that too with a varied background. So I don't think all are from IT industry. We have mix of people from automotive as well as the railway sector, manufacturing sector, etc. So today, let me start my session with a very, very simple question. It should be a very easy question, and all of you would be eager to answer this question. So what are the typical challenges for project managers? I want you to respond.
Being a project manager itself is a challenge.
Right? Specific challenges?
Managing stakeholders.
Managing stakeholders. Brilliant.
Deadlines.
Sir?
Deadlines.
Deadlines. Fantastic. Okay. Budget and associated with cost, etc. Okay. Resources. Yes, sir. Closing challenges. Foreseeing challenges. That itself. Foreseeing challenge itself is a challenge. Anything else? Boss. Managing your boss as well as team members also. Most of the time team members. Exactly.
Working in the hybrid environment today.
Okay. Yes. Today many of us are working in a virtual environment. Getting things done from folks online. That itself a big challenge. Anyone else? Known and unknown risks. Okay, thank you for that wonderful interaction and your responses. I have just captured some of the salient risks. I think most of them are already answered here. Starting with communication issues, scope creep. All of a sudden, the scope of the project get enlarged. definition of done. So I think today in the agile environment, the definition of done, it plays a vital role. Cost management as well as schedule management, stakeholder engagement. I think so already someone has mentioned unrealistic milestones. You commit something, but finally it never happens to be a realistic milestone. Lack of accountability. You expect someone to deliver something, but people don't have accountability, and finally everybody thinks that somebody will do it, but finally nobody does it. Right? That kind of scenario. Risk management. Yes, known risk, unknown risk, and then team skills. Especially today when we talk about digital technologies and industry 4.0, people have to quickly upskill themselves. So if they don't upskill themselves, even if they are in the organization for decades, then they are not a potential resource, especially for executing projects. Okay. So what is in store for you for next 45 minutes to 1 hour is these 3 points. So primarily you are going to understand the exact definition of what is known as business storytelling. Is it something different from personal storytelling or motivational storytelling? We are going to exhaustively cover about that. And how to be prepared for business storytelling. So of course, this is an awareness session. In 1 hour, you cannot learn the art of becoming a business storyteller, but the key facts or the salient features you will get to know about it. And finally, how to revisit your case studies. Case studies are often used in project management to win new business, or when you want to talk to the existing customers about what you have done in the past, you are in and out use case studies. How can it be made enriched by using business storytelling technique? Right. So how many of you know this story called Black Balloon Story? I think the moment I start sharing, probably you will get to know that, yes, I have heard this through WhatsApp or other social media. Has anyone heard about this story? Black Balloon Story? No. Okay, let me explain. Quickly, in 2 minutes, I'll finish this story. Actually, there was a boy. This boy, when he went to a street, he found a balloon vendor, the balloon seller. The balloon seller was selling balloons filled with gas. And the moment you release the balloon, it will go into the sky. People pay money, buy it, and then allow it to go into the air. Right? That's how children find pleasure. But this boy, he went to the balloon vendor, and he was dark in complexion. Right? So he had a bit of complex. And he went to the balloon vendor and said, "Do you have black balloon?" The balloon vendor said, "Yes, I have." Then the next question was, "So will this black balloon will also go up the moment I release it?" Then the balloon vendor said, "Yes, of course. It does not matter what the color of the balloon is. It is all about what is inside the balloon. What is inside the balloon, that is going to matter." So that's all. The story is very simple and short. Have you heard this story? Okay. So what is the key takeaway from this story? Inside the balloon matter. So that is a metaphor, but how can you extrapolate? So what you think of yourself matters and doesn't bother about the external form or the external content. Yes, madam.
Content of the story is more important rather than how it is.
Yes, content is more important. So whether it is a story or movie or a book, so rather than the presentation or the outer skin. Okay, but yes, sir.
Anybody can go to greater height if they have a talent.
Fantastic, brilliant. So I think a lot of takeaways are there. So on single, yes.
What is inside you is more important than how you look.
Okay. Thank you so much. But what is the relevance of this story for corporate audience? So all of you said, I think probably you would have felt, wow, that is a short story, fantastic message. But what is the relevance of this story to a corporate audience? So the moment as a boss in a, town hall meeting, if I share this story, what will be the reflection of the audience, my team members? How can they relate to their work or project? Since this is a project managers forum, so how does it matter to project management or your corporate?
The team is a combination of everything. It's not only, it can be from a different perspectives can be added.
Different perspectives can be added. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Probably the outliers might be there, but still they can do.
Yes.
How they can excel and get recognized.
So how they excel and get recognized. Yes, I think definitely some key takeaways are there. Everyone can achieve. Definitely some key takeaways are there, but we have to think, right, to get the message and try to apply it to corporate world. So only with forceful thinking you will be able to apply it in the corporate world. But unfortunately today, most of the storytelling sessions in corporate world, they talk about this kind of stories. So that is where I want to differ. So even I have attended some of the corporate storytelling sessions and people talk about the balloon story or a story talking about the donkey falling into the well, right? I think some of you would have heard about the donkey in the well. The donkey, the owner started closing the well by putting more and more stands. The donkey shivered itself and then finally it came up. So like that, lot of short stories are there, motivational stories are there, but they have very less reference to corporate audience. So that is the key message I want to drive here. And I am going to elaborate. So what is the difference between personal storytelling, motivational storytelling, as well as business storytelling? Okay. So this is the first point. The intent of personal storytelling is to motivate and inspire people. So the prime objective is to motivate and inspire. So like the balloon story or the donkey story, always we can motivate people. Whereas the business storytelling, so of course here also the purpose is to motivate and inspire people, but more than that, we are going to talk more about the branding of the organization. We are going to talk more about the corporate core values. When we talk about corporate core values, it is all about team management, stakeholder management, communication skills, integrity, honesty, cost management, time management. So many things are there in the organization. So this business storytelling would focus more on that rather than just to inspire or motivate the audience. And coming back to, again, personal storytelling, it can be fictional or semi-fictional. Even you can cook up a story, it's okay. So people know that it is a cooked up story, but still they are looking for the message. Whereas in a business storytelling session, the story need to be authentic and then it should be original. So we are going to take examples from other organizations or your own personal examples and tell the stories to your team members or different kind of stakeholders. That is the second differentiation. The third one is most of the time the personal stories revolve around the speaker or his own kith and kin. For example, I will say that I started my career from scratch. So in fact, I went through my college days by studying under the street light, and today I have become a great academician or something like that. I can keep telling about it. But in a corporate audience, that has got very less relevance, right? For a public forum, it's okay to talk about yourself. Or even I have seen some of the project managers saying that my daughter has come out with a very creative poem. But how many of you are so creative? You are all glued to your day-to-day work. So it is a kind of bragging, right? So people will never appreciate, but they will not have guts to open and tell to their boss that, boss, you are bragging. No. But it has got very less relevance. Whereas the business storytelling revolves around customers, team members, and other management team. So it will always revolve around. So it need not be related to your own organization. You can also talk about your past stories, or you can talk about some popular stories from other organizations. Then the sources, when you talk about sources, the personal storytelling or motivational storytelling, it can be like any grandma stories, folk tales, fables, or historical events. You can talk about some historical events. Whereas business storytelling, so primarily involves business cases, corporate incidents, success stories, and lessons learned, kind of, etc. And the regular storytelling, the motivational storytelling and the personal storytelling normally happens in an ambience where we have informal get-together, for example, team outing or family get-together, parties, etc. Primarily non-professional forums. Whereas business storytelling happens in formal setup, for example, customer meeting or proposal defense, team meeting, town hall, whatever happens in office ambience. So that is the primary differentiation between this one. And when we talk about storytelling, always the expectation is the storyteller need to be very, very articulative. What does it mean? So he has to have excellent body language, eye contact, the gestures, all those things matter a lot, right? That's how you will be able to glue to the customer and you will be able to engage with the customer. Of course, that is also essential for business storytelling, but more than that, what is more important is the content. The content is more important. I don't have to jump here and there, so I don't have to do a lot of dramatic act to tell the story while I'm talking in front of my team members or customers. The content is more important than the other aspects. And when we talk about any storytelling or public speaking, two things are vital. That is where you can persuade the audience. Most of the time when we talk to an audience, at the end we have some call to action. So we want the people to do something at the end of the session, right? So for which two vital things are important. One is emotion and the second one is logic. So we say that people can be categorized into the left-centered brain or right-centered brain. Some of them are more affected with the emotions. Some of them are very, very logical. For everything they will ask what, when, how. They keep on asking questions. And it is not that one person will always be emotional or one person will always be logical, right? So even within few minutes, people, all of a sudden they will think emotional or immediately they will randomly switch their mind to talk about logical. And constantly the audience will keep asking, why this session? Why at all this speaker? What am I going to listen after what am I going to do after listening to this session? So these kind of logical questions will keep happening. So if you want to talk to an audience and empower them, so both the things are vital. But here the percentage varies between personal storytelling and business storytelling. In a personal storytelling, I have to talk with more of emotion. Emotion can be articulated with my voice variation or even how I craft the story. So I will bring in a lot of pathos, or even when I want to talk about the joy or different kind of emotions are there, right? Anger. So all those things will be evident through by body language and vocal variety. So that's why I'll try to bring in emotion. And I'll also try to connect with the audience, say something relevant to the audience so that they are able to align with me throughout the storytelling session. Whereas in a business storytelling, more than emotions, I need to focus more on logic. So because a corporate audience, so the moment you get into office, so we pay very, very less attention to the emotion aspect. So we always ask, so is it going to be relevant? Is it going to be helpful for my project? Is it going to get me more business from the customer? So always they talk logics. So we have to talk about numbers and the facts and figures more than the emotion aspect, right? So here now, I think in the last 6 slides, I have clearly explained what is the difference between storytelling and the business storytelling. So otherwise, many of us, we used to think, so what is this storytelling all about? So is it relevant in corporate ambience? So such kind of doubts you should be having, but by this time, I think it should have got cleared. Any questions? Any questions on business? Yes, Jayashree.
What is the end goal of business storytelling? Like, for example, in the earlier when we used to have the case studies, so typically when a client presentation happens, you will bring in some parallel case studies to be done. Is that the space which is getting replaced by business storytelling, or what is
Yes, I will be covering it. So, but quickly I will answer. Thank you, Jayashree. So here the purpose of business storytelling is all about getting things done, right? So getting things done. So actually when I mentioned we were discussing about the different challenges. Yes. So out of all these challenges, one of the important challenges which has been mentioned by several forums and organizations is the communication issues. So communication issues hamper the project management, and because of communication issues, cost escalation is going up or the schedule variance happens. It does not mean that project managers are having deficiency in communication. They are good. So that's why they have become project managers. They have language skills. They know what to speak, what not to speak. They know how to make a crisp presentation, etc. But what is missing is the emotional bonding with the team members or the stakeholders. The emotional bonding is missing. So they always come out with the presentation slides. They talk about pie charts, bar charts. So talk about only key metrics, right? That emotional bonding is missing, and that is the reason we are taking storytelling as a tool to connect with the team members. And today it is very much missing. So when audience, everyone has got attention deficiency syndrome. So the only way to connect with the audience is through storytelling. So to answer your question, what is the intent of business storytelling? What are all the different aspects of different situations where we can use stories? Is any situation. It can be team meeting, or it can be a meeting with the customer, or even a meeting with your partners. I'll cover it in the next few slides. Yeah. Now let's try to understand how to become a business storyteller. So just this is going to be a little bit of a crash course. So of course you cannot learn everything overnight, but at least the key things I would like to share it here. So whom do we speak with? So as a project manager, you are going to day in, day out, you are going to talk to your team members, customers, vendors, partners, top management, then the government agencies, quality assurance team. So different kind of stakeholders we are going to talk to. And while talking to them, what subjects we are going to talk? We are going to talk about innovation, accountability. So each day, each meeting is different agenda, right? So for example, so I think project review meeting is a constant thing. But apart from project review meeting, you will also be talking about different aspects to your team members. So customers, again, always you never make presentations. So customers also you talk about different kind of escalations. So many things we will talk. So these are all some of the topics. So I think all of you have more than 1 decades of experience. In your experience, there would have several incidents that would have happened. So what I want you to do is, so come out with an Excel sheet like this. Take a spreadsheet and then note down all your past incidents. So note down all your past incidents. Each incident would have got to come out with each incident will have some kind of message. So it can be your personal incident happened in the present organization, or incident happened in your past organization, or some of them are generic, like Enron or your BP oil spill. So it can be generic. And then here I am trying to have a category. So for example, accountability, apathy. So each story will have 1 or 2 or more than 1 message. So and each one of them you just make a note of it. And then you can also talk about what are all the specifics. So why the specifics are important is, without specifics, people will never pay attention. For example, when I say that I had a friend in refinery, and the friend brought his team members. So we all went for an outing, but still our project manager called when we were on outing. So that has got less connect with the audience. Instead of that, if you can give a name, right? 2 years back on a Sunday morning, Ganesh called me, and Ganesh and his team members, Rahul, and then Hema, and then Mala. So all of them said that we want to come down immediately and meet you in person. So that was on a Sunday morning. I have not got up. So when you talk about the people name, and then if you mention about the place, these are all the things called specifics. The moment it can be a fictitious name. So always you need not have to reproduce the original name. Sometimes it will also land you in trouble. So you can always give a fictitious name. And then the audience will be able to give a, what is that? They will be able to imagine how that person will look like. So they will be glued to your talk throughout your session. So that is I am saying that place, time, people, all those things are important. You have a metrics like this. This is called a business storytelling metrics. So with this kind of metrics, at any point of time, you will be able to, otherwise, without such kind of preparation, it is very difficult. I am not a storyteller. I cannot tell a story. Nothing has happened. Nothing has, interesting thing has happened in my life. So that is the kind of mindset you will be having. But once you start curating all these kind of stories, then you will be able to reproduce at any point of time. So for example, when we talk about innovation, you will have 2 or 3 stories. Some of them will be relevant for your team members. Some of them will be relevant when you external meeting. to have such kind of a repository of stories. Actually, a long time back, before me getting into the IT world, I was part of an engineering organization where we were developing operator training simulator for the oil and gas companies and energy sector. So operator training simulator is a kind of a setup where you can simulate different kind of incidents so that the operating crew members can be trained. I think all of you should be familiar with flight simulator. Have you heard about flight simulator? So that is where the pilots get trained. So like that, the petroleum refinery or a power plant, the control room operators need to be trained on different kind of emergencies, startup, shutdown, etc. How can they be trained? They cannot be trained online. So in a plant, I go take them into a control room and switch off a pump and ask them to respond to the different kind of emergencies. I need to have a simulated environment. So that is where our company was deeply involved in. It was a Chennai-based company. So I am going to talk about a project. This project was for a customer in Thailand. The Thailand-based company called the Trans Thai Malaysian Company, TTM. It was somewhere between Thailand and Malaysia. A gas plant. For the gas plant, we have to develop the simulator, and the simulator has to be ready before the plant is commissioned, so that the operators are well versed in different kind of emergencies, startup, shutdown. So that is the the principle behind buying a simulator before the plant is commissioned. So we have all the data, and using the data and doing all kind of mathematical modeling, we have to develop the simulator. Here, this project had a lot of complexity. For example, there was a consultant called Kevner, who was the project management consultant, and they identified a company called Samsung in Korea. So they were the turnkey contractor, lump sum turnkey contractor, LSTK. And Samsung has given the automation project to another company called Yokogawa. Yokogawa is company like Honeywell or ABB. So they provide the SCADA and other system. Yokogawa Thailand subcontracted the SCADA portion to Yokogawa Singapore. And the Yokogawa Singapore company has given this simulation project, OTS project, to us, Chennai-based Protect software. So this is the complex stakeholder management echo. And apart from that, we also involved a Japanese company who were supplying the simulation software. So using their simulation software, we have to develop a model, and finally this has to be delivered. And we did a deep dive, risk management, all those things. In fact, this particular project was taken up for your CMMI level 4 certification. And we have done all kind of process quality related stuff. But at the end of the project, almost when we were about to execute, we had a lot of challenges because the simulation tool was not behaving as expected. So though some of my team members, we attended a 2 weeks training program in Japan and then got familiarized with the tool, but the tool had a lot of limitations. So it was like the usual demo version. So it could not handle the complexity of the plant. So we have to simulate the entire plant and different kind of dynamics, and every instant the simulator has to behave like a real plant. That never happened, and we had a lot of troubles. And it was almost like a nightmarish experience to complete that project. Somehow we managed and then closed the project. So this is a project, a classic example where the risk identification was not appropriate. Though we talked about all the communication issues, the cost, all those things are covered in risk management, but here we are not, I think Madam has mentioned, known and unknown risk. So this was identified as unknown risk. Because the credentials of the simulation software vendor, we assumed the software will be able to support for the complex project. But in reality, it never happened. I tell this story whenever we talk about risk management. So now you would have got an idea. So how to tell a story and what kind of a situation, what kind of story to be told to your audience. So like this, we have several stories in our repository. So appropriately, you have to tell this story to your audience so that you will get things done from your stakeholders. So at the end of the day, all is needed is you won't get things done. So the moment you start presenting, either customer has to give an order, or customer has to accept your project, or team members need to complete certain task in the given time. So each meeting or each presentation has got a definite agenda. So to achieve this definite agenda, instead of a conventional way of presenting with the facts, figures, charts, pie charts, etc. So talk to the audience in a way that you tell a story. That's all, nothing more. So that is all called business storytelling. So I think now you would have got a little bit of idea how business storytelling can be told. Okay. So in the recent times, in the last 1 year, what I have done is I have started telling the micro aspects. I already told you that business storytelling cannot be learned overnight. So you need to mentally prepare, and then you have to gear up yourself. So on different aspects, I have written articles in LinkedIn. So this is called A to Z of business storytelling. So for example, A stands for authenticity. Why business storytelling need to be authentic? So I cannot just cook up, or I cannot put the imaginary stuff and then tell a story. So one article talks about authenticity. The second topic talks about brevity. B stands for brevity. So then C stands for characters. In your story, you have to bring in some kind of characters and give them some names. Then D for dialogues. Like that, A to Z I have covered. So if you want, you can quickly scan this and go to the link and then subscribe to the newsletter. So I will be publishing more and more articles on this. So that will give you more ideas about how to see the multi dimensions of business storytelling. Right. Now let's move on to the third aspect of revisiting business case studies. So most of the time we come out with business case studies while submitting a proposal. So if we want to win a particular project, then we pick up relevant case studies and then submit it. And we also use the case studies and use it in the proposal defense. But sometime back when I went through all the past case studies, so a lot of deficiencies were there, and I could figure out this could have been improved, or it would have been enhanced better. For example, let me come out with a case study. So this particular project is talking about enterprise real-time information for a refining company. A refinery company has got a plant SCADA system, and apart from that, it has got multiple IT systems. For example, laboratory information system talks about, it takes care of the automation of the quality control laboratory. So all those things are available in the form of a software. Similarly, enterprise asset management system takes care of all your assets management, that is equipment, procurement, buying, installation, contracting, maintenance, work order, work permit, everything is part of enterprise asset management system. This particular customer had almost 13 refineries across the globe, and we tried to integrate the real-time information from the SCADA as well as almost more than a dozen systems from where we pulled out all the key information and then tried to put it in the form of a dashboard for the executives. So the primary objective is for the executive is to go through the dashboard and take business decisions. And this is how the case study was presented. And you can see here challenges, objectives, scope, tools, technologies, etc., etc. So let me try to dissect and then see what are all the deficiencies in the case study, so how it can be improved. For example, the title itself is not very compelling for the audience to read. Title, that is the enterprise real-time information system for a downstream refining. It is not absolutely clear. And here we are come out with a stock image which has got no relevance. So a guy with a laptop, I think he's sitting in front of a beach. So it has no relevance. And the challenges, they are all very, very generic. Extraction of information from disparate sources as well as from the geographically distributed sites, performance monitoring without KPI. This all seems to be very, very generic. And the screenshot is not clear. Just for the sake of it, we have tried to embed a screenshot. And when we talk about the benefits, there are almost 6 to 7 benefits, but none of them are quantified benefits. So now how can this be improved, or how can this be presented in the form of a business story? So here, so if you follow this approach, that will have more relevance, and you will be able to connect more with the audience. First, you give a context. Who is this customer? Most of the time, the customers are not referenceable customers, and you cannot use their logo, or you cannot mention even their name. But you can mention in generic. You can tell. So your potential customers will be able to guess whom you are meaning. Example, the customer is an integrated oil and gas major headquartered in UK, having 14 refineries across the 3 continents, namely Europe, North America, and Australia. So that gives the idea about the customer. So are they a small customers or a big is Fortune 500 company? All that will be reflected in the very first line. So that gives an overview about the customer. The second thing is about business challenge. Without this dashboard, so currently what are the challenges? Every project starts with some pain statement, pain areas. But most of the time when we talk about case studies or proposals, we only talk about what are all the benefits they are going to get. Or we try to come out with our offerings. So if you want to connect with your audience, if you want to approach in the right direction, you have to start with the pain areas or challenges of the high-level customer. For example, it may be a CEO or a CEO, and then in this case, it may be a maintenance head or operations head. So who are all the different stakeholders who are having challenges without this particular solution? Here, for example, lack of integrated view, lack of visibility of key performance indicators. They were having 13 refineries across the globe. They are unable to compare which refinery is performing well. Such kind of benchmarking is not possible without this dashboard kind of thing. So try to figure out the business challenges. In fact, I have not mentioned the names here. You can also mention the name. Who is the particular person who is having challenges? You can mention the name of the person and the designation. For example, Scott Swain, the operations in charge of this particular refinery, and his counterparts in other refineries. Unless we know the exact person, the exact location, and the exact pain areas, it is very difficult to come out with a vision. So the big picture will be missed. Most of the project team members, the big picture will be missing. So each one will be coming out with their routine activities, and they feel happy that, yes, I have done my deliverables. I am okay with my performance. But that big picture is always important. So that is where you have to have this case study. Then solution. What kind of solution you have offered or you are proposed to offer. So if it is already executed project, then you have to tell what was the solution offered. Or if it is going to be proposed, then you can tell in 1 or 2 sentences. So let me try to go back to the previous slide, and you can understand what was there in place of the solution. Here we talk about tools and technologies. .NET Framework, SQL Server, Mimosa Standard, Central Pi Server. The audience, they are unable to comprehend what you are trying to say. It has got no relevance. So what they want to understand is what is the solution that was offered to address the pain areas. And again, you can mention about the project highlights. The project highlights, you may have some specific special features you would have embedded, or even highlight need not always be positive things. Even if you have undergone some challenges, you can mention there. For example, in this project, the real-time information was extracted from the control room. The control room is provided with all kind of instruments. In the refinery, you have temperature indicator, sensor, the temperature, pressure, flow, level. There will be thousands and thousands of instruments. All these instruments will be giving every second information to the control room, but I am not bothered about every second information. At least once in 5 minutes, I have to take the key information and then put it in the form of a dashboard. The refinery's head supervisor or the operational head need to know what is the throughput, what is the process production happening in the last 24 hours. So like that, you have to, for which I have employed a mega Pi server in a particular location. That is what I have mentioned. I have used a couple of industry standards like OPC and Mimosa. So just to mention the highlights. And finally, this last part is very important. Benefits. When we talk about benefits, try to have quantified benefits. Quantified benefits make a lot of sense. Sometimes there can be dispute. So whatever you have mentioned may not be agreed by the customer or even the customer organization. Each team member will have some kind of dispute. So in this case, at the end of the project, it increased the productivity. The revenue increased 15% through better productivity at the refineries. Because of the visibility, because of the better productivity, 15% revenue has got improved. And effort reduction. So otherwise, without this dashboard, people were using lot of paperwork and people were submitting to the bosses and different your other counter departments. But now with the automation, everything is available with the click of a button. So they were able to reduce the effort reduction by 7%. And finally, integrated view of all the refineries in one single dashboard. So if you follow this approach, definitely your audience will be, especially when we talk about customers, the customers will be happy. Yes, you have done a decent job. They will be convinced. So otherwise, all unwanted information will be overwhelming for the customer. So this is with respect to slide presentation, but when you are talking in front of the customer while doing the proposal defense, you can also add little more spicy stuff like what happened, who was the person who got benefited. So you can mention names, of course, after due sanitation, you can mention all that. So that way you will be able to connect with the audience, and once the connection happens, they will be able to listen to you, what you have said, and finally, whatever you want to achieve, that will be possible. Now, having understood the different way of approaching case studies, now I have a question for you. When is the right time to come out with a case study? When should we come out with a case study? Business benefit is realized at that point of time. That means almost at the end of the project or even after that. Okay. Product launch. Okay, thank you, ma'am.
Normally, if we go for a new customer information or something, we bring out with the learning case studies either from the past project, we create those, or at the end of the project. This is what we have seen in the IT sector.
Okay, okay. So how many of you want to agree with him? So at the end of the project, case studies?
Probably when we want to showcase the achievements or whatever we have achieved the milestones in between, we can project a case study.
Can you come again, sir?
Whatever we have achieved the milestones in between in the project, just to attract the attention of the customer.
Okay.
So that will help to boost our.
Thank you. So if the project is executed in different phases, at the end of every phase, probably you can come out with a case. Yes, sir.
When you want to promote a new concept,
Promote a new concept. Can you elaborate a bit?
I mean, you're coming out with a totally new product or totally something new in the industry, right? Which nobody has seen before.
Okay. So revolutionary concept. So the first of its kind.
First of its kind, something you want to do, you take a small case study, do it, and then go and present it to the whole.
Thank you, sir. Yes, sir.
Actually, it's not at the end of the project. Actually, it should be end of the results out of the projects. Like for example, take Tata Nano or Tata A. They complete the product is launched. Then they see the outcome of the product in the field, so customer feedback.
So even, so if I'm right, well, you are saying that it's not just at the end of the project, so only when the results are realized. Yes. Yes, sir.
What is the relevance of the case study?
Relevance of the case study.
The relevance of the case study is to showcase your problem, maybe your problem, and how this problem has been solved by other organizations. So you put that as a case study.
Okay.
It's not that you are doing your case study. So references with other organizations where they have done that better. So take some examples there, here and there, and present them. This is what I am going to propose to it, or rather I am doing it.
Okay, thank you. Yes, sir, you want.
We all know that at the end of the project only the right time to start the case study, but we can also proactively think predictability perspective how this project is going to be done. That kind of beginning of the phase also you can prepare it.
Fantastic, sir. Fantastic. Your name?
Ilayaraja.
Ilayaraja. How many of you agree with Ilayaraja saying that the case study can be prepared upfront? Yes. Yes. Brilliant, sir. So actually, the case study can be prepared the moment you submit your proposal, because all the data is with you. Everything is with you. You know what kind of solution you want to offer. You know what kind of technology you are going to use. And you have a rough idea about what is the benefits, even quantified benefits. So maybe the actual benefit and the predicted benefit may be slightly, there will be some kind of deviation. 10% you will say, but at the end of the project it may bring in 6% only. But the advantage of having case study upfront on day one is, first is your team members have a big picture. That one single slide is enough. So you put this in your project war room. Every time when you have a stand-up meeting or you have a weekly call, take 1 minute to brief about it. And that will also give you a guideline whether you are in the right direction. Right? So because in a complex project, new members will be added, right? So you will never know about the big picture. So what is the intent for which we are doing the project? He may never have an idea. He will come and deliver what he has to deliver. That's all. So I have seen several such cases. People have worked in a particular domain. For example, one of the project managers who has been supporting a retail application for almost 8 to 10 years, but never had any idea about the domain. But she was happy and all her deliverables are in green and everything was okay. But only you understand a big picture, or if you understand the domain, further additional projects or winning of a new business is possible. Most of the time, always the client never go for bidding process. If it is within their budget, they will go with the existing customer, provided he knows that you know their business. The moment you know that you explain that you know their business, they will be able to give you the business, because bidding process is a very complex mechanism and they spend huge money. Even without a bidding process, they can give you repeat business for further projects, for which you need to have a big picture. And when you have the slide deck, the case study upfront, that will help you to go in the right direction. And that will always give you the perfect alignment throughout the project with all the stakeholders. Any questions on that, or anyone? Yes.
What you are explaining is you submit a proposal. Upfront, you give the big picture to the customer explaining your solution. That's not a case study. A case study is typically when you complete a project or you reach a significant milestone, you explain what were the successes, what are the areas for improvement, what were the success metrics, what are the cost savings. This is what is a case study.
Yes. So I agree with you with respect to the terminologies. So probably you need not have to call this as a case study, but this information. So the information, if you are having it from day one, that is going to help the entire team members to understand the big picture of the project. Is that right? Yes, Jess.
See, what you explained was more like preparing a project upfront. Like the difference between a project plan and actual execution, what happens. I think his point is that at the end, you know how much you deviated from the project plan and what are the assets which go towards the closure of the project. Whereas what you've explained as a case study now is something you say upfront, saying this is my roadmap, this is how I'm going to go. But at the end of it, you need to go and update the case study saying this is what really happened, this is what's the outcome.
Yes, this is very much dynamic. So every time, within 3 months, the numbers would have changed. Even the approach would have changed. So all of a sudden, you would have dropped a tool and you have chosen a new tool. So you can keep changing it. So it is dynamic. So what I am trying to saying is, try to change the monotony of having a case study with pie charts at the end, because at the end, the existing customer is not excited about it because he knows what he has achieved. So primarily we use this case study for winning new business. Even when the moment you started the project, when you have the case study, you can take this and then tell this is an ongoing project to the other customers. Because most of the time people would like to know whether a similar business has been done. You need not have to wait till the end of the project. So this project may take 1 year. So within 6 months you may get a similar project. At that time you can take this and then tell. So of course this is on work in progress, but this is what we have envisaged. Yes, sir.
Existing pain point. Somebody is having an existing pain point. They know that, but they can't fully tell the full end-to-end point of it. So everybody is focused on their bit of work. When you prepare a case study and tell it as a story that this is the big pain point you are having, and with this solution, this is what you are going to achieve. You can do a case study for that as well. You don't have to do the case study at the end for the project.
Yes. So probably you can call it as a proactive case study. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would like to correlate with the PMI terms. It should be part of program governance or portfolio governance, because every project is linked with other project or program. So during the program governance, we could see whether the project is on trend or it's lagging, whether I have to suspend, or the new risk arises which call for another project. Maybe I cannot cover in this project, then a new project or new programs has to be formed in order to address this risk, or in order to address the change in strategy. So
Yes.
it should be part of the governance, monitoring and control.
Thank you. So primarily what we are trying to say here is, don't go with the boring case study. So probably
If you are not doing that, it's good, but just to go and revisit your case studies. So if it is all, sometimes the entire slide will be filled with the text. So just to have just one or two bullet points, which are very, very important. So just to limit yourself with the bullet points and numbers, for example, the quantified benefits or the highlights of the project. And even while making a presentation, try to give it in the form of a storytelling approach. So that is the key message when we talk about revisiting case studies. Okay. So finally, almost we are nearing the end of this session. So at the end, what I request you to do is understand the difference between the general storytelling and business storytelling. So many of you would have thought that the storytelling has no relevance in the corporate environment or in a project management perspective. So I have already explained in detail about the differentiation between the regular storytelling and the business storytelling. Business storytelling revolve around corporate incidents. It can be your own incident or your own experience or others' experience, but each one has got a message. So it may be a lessons learned or a best practices kind of stuff. Then prepare to be a business storyteller, have a metrics, have a story file. Each one of you have a story file and pick one story for a specific meeting and then articulate it. And finally, revisit the case studies. So with that, I conclude my session. And if you have a few more questions, I can take it forward.
Yes, sir. How important is the audience? I cannot tell the same story.
Just a minute, sir.
mic is coming.
Thanks. How important is the audience? I cannot tell the same story to the CEO and to the worker at the level, right? How important is the audience?
Yes, your audience understanding is very much important. So most of the time, especially some cliched stories, you cannot go and repeat. For example, when we talk about Enron story, I think most of us are already aware. So think twice. So whether this audience would have heard this earlier. So think twice. And again, depends on the kind of audience, different levels. So for sometimes customers may not like some specific terms. So the culturally it may not align well. So I think all those things you have to be cautious. So you have to be proactive and then think twice about it. So for each customer and each audience, each situation demands a different kind of story. So of course, though it is going to be helpful, but if you are playing it wrongly, then it can backfire. So you have to be very, very careful. Yes, sir. Any other questions from anyone? Yes, Chase. Yes.
An extension to this question is that it shouldn't be that the depth of information you go to is different from, say, the CXO level vis-a-vis a technical manager. Won't your approach to the storytelling be different with more detailing down, or how does it go?
Yes. So definitely, depending on the customer and depending on situation, the approach will be different. Or sometimes you may also have to drop the idea of telling story. So and never say that I'm going to tell a story. So senior folks will get upset. I don't have time to listen to your stories. That will be their reaction. So without telling telling these words, without explicitly telling that I'm going to tell a story. So you have to have a different kind of approach. And I already mentioned about the B part. When I mentioned about the A to Z of business storytelling, B stands for brevity. So all the stories cannot go more than 3 minutes or 5 minutes, because none of the audience have got patience to listen to all your so-called stories. So try to have the crux of the story and then deliver it within 2 to 3 minutes. Even some stories can be told within 1 to 2 minutes. Same way, the general stories, even business stories can be condensed. So all that requires is a little bit of practice. So with that practice and perseverance, you will be able to achieve it. Okay, thank you so much for being wonderful audience. A lot of interactions happened. Thank you so much. Thank you PMI Chennai Chapter for this wonderful opportunity.